Welcome back to Crypto Intel, your source for clear crypto analysis, market insights, and the future of digital finance. Today we're taking a deep dive into one of the most interesting enterprise-focused crypto projects in the market, Hedera and its native cryptocurrency, HBAR. HBAR has been quietly building for years, while many other cryptocurrencies were chasing hype cycles. But recently, the project has started getting attention again from investors, institutions, and developers. So in this video, we're going to break down everything you need to know about HBAR. First, we'll take a look at the latest technical analysis and price levels. Then we'll discuss recent news and institutional activity around the Hedera ecosystem. And finally, I'll share my personal outlook on where HBAR could go next in the crypto market. For anyone new to the project, Hedera is not a traditional blockchain. Instead, it uses a technology called hashgraph, which allows transactions to be processed extremely quickly and efficiently. The network can process more than 10,000 transactions per second with extremely low fees, making it one of the fastest distributed ledger networks in the industry. HBAR is the native token used to pay for transactions, secure the network, and power decentralized applications built on Hedera. And unlike many crypto projects, Hedera is governed by a council that includes major global organizations like Google, IBM, and Deutsche Telekom, which helps give the project credibility with enterprise users. But technology alone doesn't move prices, so let's talk about what the market is actually doing right now. At the time of recording this video, HBAR is trading around 9 cents to 10 cents, consolidating near a key technical level that many traders are watching closely. This price zone is extremely important because 10 cents has become a major resistance level for the market. Several analysts note that if HBAR manages to break above this level with strong volume, the next short-term targets could move into the 0.11 to 0.12 range. But the current momentum is still mixed. The Relative Strength Index, or RSI, is sitting in neutral territory around the mid-40s to 50 range. This means the market is not currently overbought or oversold. Meanwhile, indicators like MACD are still showing some bearish pressure, which suggests that the market may need more time to build momentum before a strong breakout. Another important level to watch is $0.09, which has recently acted as a critical support zone. If HBAR holds this level, the market could attempt another push upward. But if this support breaks, analysts say the next demand area could appear closer to $0.07. So right now, HBAR is essentially sitting at a technical crossroads. The next major move will likely depend on broader crypto market sentiment and continued adoption of the Hedera network. And that brings us to the fundamental side of the story. One interesting development surrounding Hedera is growing institutional exposure to HBAR. For example, an investment product tied to HBAR launched in 2025 has already accumulated over 562 million HBAR tokens, representing more than 1% of the circulating supply. This kind of accumulation can be important because when institutional funds hold large amounts of tokens, it reduces the supply available on the open market. And over time, that can potentially create upward pressure on price if demand continues growing. Another important narrative for Hedera is enterprise adoption and regulatory alignment. Because the network uses a transparent governance structure and works closely with large corporations, some analysts believe it may have an advantage when it comes to regulatory compliance and real-world business integration. Hedera has also positioned itself strongly in sectors like tokenization of real-world assets, supply chain tracking, digital identity systems, and enterprise payment infrastructure. These are areas where distributed ledger technology could see massive adoption over the next decade. But of course, none of this guarantees that HBAR will outperform other cryptocurrencies. The competition in the industry is still extremely strong. Projects like Ethereum, Solana, and Avalanche are all fighting for the same developer ecosystem. But beyond technical analysis and partnerships, there's another important factor investors are starting to watch more closely: network activity and on-chain metrics. Because in the long run, the success of any blockchain depends on real usage. And in the case of Hedera, the network has shown steady growth in several key metrics over time. For example, the number of transactions processed on the Hedera network has grown significantly, reaching billions of total transactions since launch. This is important because it demonstrates that the network is actually being used for real applications, rather than existing purely as a speculative asset. Another interesting signal is developer activity. Over the past few years, more developers have started experimenting with the Hedera ecosystem, building decentralized applications, payment systems, and enterprise tools on top of the network. Developer growth is often considered one of the strongest long-term indicators for blockchain ecosystems. If developers continue building new applications, that naturally increases the demand for the underlying network infrastructure, and that can eventually translate into greater demand for the native token, in this case, HBAR. Another factor worth watching is token supply dynamics. Like many cryptocurrencies, HBAR has a large maximum supply. However, a portion of the tokens is gradually released into circulation over time, according to Hedera's distribution schedule. For some investors, this raises concerns about potential selling pressure. But on the other hand, gradual token distribution can also help support ecosystem development by funding partnerships, grants, and network expansion. So the long-term impact really depends on how effectively the Hedera ecosystem continues to grow. And this is where the next phase of crypto adoption could become extremely important. If blockchain technology moves deeper into enterprise infrastructure, global finance, and real-world asset tokenization, networks like Hedera could potentially play a much larger role in the digital economy. But of course, none of that is guaranteed. And that brings us to the most important question investors are asking right now. What could actually drive the next big move for HBAR? Now here's my personal take on HBAR. I think Hedera is one of the most interesting long-term infrastructure projects in crypto. The technology is fast, the fees are extremely low, and the governance model makes the network attractive for large companies. But at the same time, Hedera has never been a hype-driven project, and that means its growth has often been slower compared to more speculative cryptocurrencies. From a technical perspective, the key level to watch right now is still 10 cents. If HBAR breaks above this resistance and holds it as support, we could start seeing momentum build toward 12 cents and potentially higher levels later in the cycle. Long-term forecasts vary widely, but some projections suggest that as the ecosystem grows, HBAR could gradually move toward the 0.12 to 0.15 range during 2026, assuming continued network expansion. But like always in crypto, nothing is guaranteed. The market is volatile, and any investment should always be approached carefully. Still, HBAR remains one of those projects that could surprise the market if enterprise adoption continues accelerating, and it's definitely a coin worth watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more technical analysis, crypto news, and deep dives into emerging blockchain projects, make sure to subscribe to Crypto Intel. Also, let me know in the comments, do you think HBAR is undervalued right now? Or is it overrated? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video here on Crypto Intel.